Alright, let's see what we top deck. Urza's Saga. That was not bad. We'll definitely play that one out. Not only will this set us up with an amulet a little bit down the line, but also gives us something to do with our mana in the meantime. Assuming we don't draw anything relevant, we can just make some creatures and attack. Forget what I was saying. Completely ignore me, as is sometimes the best choice. Hello and welcome, everybody. We are here with a brand new league with Karn, the Great Creator. This is going to be the first time I've actually played Karn in a list that also plays Urza's Saga, so of course the list is kind of tight here. We don't have a whole lot of room. We're only playing 2 copies of Explorer, even though that is one that plays very well with both Saga and Karn, in my opinion. I would like to be able to fit more copies of that one, but of course, we gotta have our Expedition map. We gotta have 4 Grazers, because Grazer is great in the matchups where Karn is poor against those aggressive strategies, and of course, we're trying to not get punked by our opponents playing Monkey. If they're playing a Ragavan, then we need to have an answer for that, which is also the reason for the 3 Dismembers in the sideboard. And of course, speaking of room, we don't have room in the main board for these 2 sideboard bullet lands, Bajuka Bog and Ghost Quarter. Of course, these both are in the sideboard. Bog is one that I would prefer to include in the main, because it can frequently come up as a way to play around your opponent having a Murktide Regent. You can put it into play and shrink your opponent's Dragon's Rage Channeler down to a 1/1. You can use it in various different ways. It's also somewhat useful against the living index of the world, but of course, without having something like Elvish Reclaimer or Sakura Tribe Scout to flash and bog at instant speed, it's not going to be quite as strong against the living index, so probably not going to help us too much there, but especially against the Dragon's Rage Channeler decks, especially the ones that are also playing Kroxa, having access to Bog would be quite nice, so it's a shame that we do have to put it in the sideboard here. Ghost Quarter, on the other hand, has been in the sideboard for most of these Saga lists, and I think that makes a lot of sense. We also are not playing 1 copy of Crumbling Vestige, which I think that with Saga, Crumbling Vestige is a little less important, as oftentimes we're just doing the double amulet thing to kill our opponent and don't need lands in play. And there can sometimes be situations where having the Crumbling Vestige would be better, but here we're choosing not to include it. And then, of course, the cards that we're playing for our Karn board this time are Tormod's Crypt, the 0-mana artifact that interacts with our opponent's graveyard. Pithy Needle to deactivate whatever we choose, be it an Urza Saga to stop our opponent from making their constructs. It could be a Planeswalker, it could be Asmore, it could be very many different things, so Pithy Needle is going to get the nod here as well. We have Liquid Metal Coating to destroy our opponent's lands, of course, in combination with Karn. We have Golos Tireless Program, one that was becoming more popular before the Karn lists kind of fell off the face of the planet with the printing of Saga. Before Saga came out, almost every Karn list was playing 1 Golos in the sideboard, and I happen to particularly like this card in general. So here we are playing 1 in the sideboard here as a little bit of a mid-rangey thing to get with Karn. And of course, speaking of mid-rangey things, we have the mid-range killer, Wormcoil Engine, the 6-mana 6/6 Death Touch Lifelinker. It'll help you erase your opponent's Dragon's Rage Channelers. It'll help you stand up against your opponent's Murktide Regent, hopefully. And of course, it's always a great threat to cast underneath the Blood Moon. If you can resolve Karn, minus for Worm, and then play the Worm, you can frequently win against Blood Moon that way. So, of course, these are the tutor targets that we're including. We do also have Engineered Explosives, but this is mainly because we'll be boarding this one in whenever Karn is bad. Against the aggressive decks, we'll be boarding out Karns and bringing in Explosives, but of course, it is possible to minus Karn for Explosives. Otherwise, we have some pretty standard stuff. We have Dismembers for our opponent's Ragavans. We have some Artifact and Enchantment interaction. And then, of course, we have the Bullet Lands in the sideboard as well. Yeah, I'm happy to jump into this league, and I will see you guys in the games. While we are waiting for an opponent here, I do want to mention a couple things. Firstly, part of the reason why I'm playing this particular Karn list today is because once I hit 500 subscribers, I will be making a video on the particulars about the Karn amulet lists and the Reclaimer amulet lists. That'll be my next PowerPoint video, so if you want to see that, then go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. Especially subscribing is the most important one there. The second thing that I want to mention while we're jumping into this match here is that Karn the Great Creator is currently the lowest I have seen it in like the past year at 22 ticks online. So if you're an online player, now is probably a good time to pick up your Karns. But regardless, I will leave that to you guys. I just wanted to be the person to let you know. And let's go ahead and start off with being on the play, of course. Is this a hand that we keep? We don't have a ramp spell. we get to play turn 1 Amulet, so if we top deck a Dryad or a Zusa, then we can play it, and we are on the draw, so we do get an extra draw here as well. Explorer would be good for this hand. I think if our opponent leads on turn 1 Thoughtseize, which they're unlikely to do considering they haven't revealed a companion here, I would expect Luris from most of the Thoughtseize decks, then maybe it would be a bit of a risk, but I think I'm willing to try it. I have in the past mulliganed hands like this, so I'm willing to see if this is a hand that we should potentially be keeping. Let me know if you would keep this hand in the comments below. Our opponent leads on Snowforest Abundant Growth. Interesting. So possibly a Niv deck that just happens not to be playing Yorion. That could definitely be possible. I guess... So the only argument against fetching out the basic here and playing Amulet is that we might want the blue to set up a Telaria West. I guess playing Cavern doesn't really set anything up, though. We could fetch Shock and get Breeding Pool. I think it's probably worth the 2 life. That way we can play around being able to play turn 1 Amulet, but also having the mana that we might need later on to transmute, so it's probably a small price to pay. We still have another shot at drawing a 3-drop or an Explorer off the top. Explorer would let us cast a turn 3 Titan here, as we would play Castle Garenbrig, Explorer, just any other land, maybe even Vesuva to copy their basic, and then we'd untap, play Bounce Land, play Titan, after activating Garenbrig, of course. Our opponent has Temple Garden. I guess this could also be an Enchantress deck, which I had not considered, and we do see Utopia Sprawl. Naming, I'm assuming white. Yep, naming a white. So yeah, it's probably Enchantress then. Interesting. I feel like if we can manage to hit this ramp spell on this upcoming turn, then we'll probably be in really good shape against them. Otherwise, we might be in some trouble. They can always assemble the Solemnity plus 9 lives combo if they are playing that to stop us from being able to get through. That could be a problem. Don't find the ramp spell, which is unfortunate. We do go ahead and play out the Garenbrig here, though, as if we top deck a Pact or a Zusa, we can play Bounce Land, tap the Bounce Land, the Breeding Pool, to play an Azusa that we either draw or Pact for. Then we can play Bounce Land twice more and activate Garenbrig and cast Titan, so we do still want to play the Garenbrig here. Might be a little slow, though, unfortunately. Turn 3 Titan is certainly much better. Let's see if our opponent has Blood Moon. Some of these Enchantress decks do play mainboard Blood Moon. They play Banishing Light. Basically, Oblivion Ring to exile our Amulet. That is a bit of a problem. Now, our opponent might be able to slow us down enough here because we kept a hand that only had 2 non-land permanents. Alright, let's see what we top deck. Urza's Saga. That was not bad. We'll definitely play that one out. Not only will this set us up with an Amulet a little bit down the line, but also gives us something to do with our mana in the meantime. Assuming we don't draw anything relevant, we can just make some creatures and attack. Not the worst possible thing in the world to be doing. Our opponent has all the 1 mana enchantments here. You see... Mana Bloom. Interesting. So X and 1 enchantment. Of course, in this case, X is equals 4. Enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Remove a counter from it, add 1 mana. Activate only once each turn. If it has no charge counters, return it to its owner's hand. I remember this one actually back from Return to Ravnica Standard. Kind of interesting to see it in our opponent's deck here. I guess this is a way to help them get to casting Enduring Ideal, perhaps? Another Saga is an interesting one. I mean, I guess we might as well go ahead and play that. I mean, we're not going to be activating it this upcoming turn. We'll probably be getting a Titan into play. So I guess maybe we don't want to waste it. We can Vesuva Breeding Pool. That seems like a good use of our mana. Or, good use of our land drop. We'll be using our mana at our opponent's instep here to make a creature here. Mana Blue is definitely an interesting one. Opponent makes a white on our instep. And then just does nothing. Okay. Don't really understand what's going on here, but that's fine. I guess they want to pick up the Mana Bloom, potentially, and recast it for more. I mean, if our opponent's just got nothing, they could have Path to Exile, which is something to think about. if we just go straight and mindlessly for the haste... Oh, well, we have a second Titan, so never mind. Going straight and mindlessly for the haste is probably perfectly fine when we have a second Titan backup already, so we'll get the amulet here, of course. And I guess we'll use... I mean, getting Gruul Turf doesn't really make a difference, as I don't think there's... We'd still have to get a bounce land to make the white, so... Especially since we have Vesuva copying Breeding Pool already in place, so... I suppose... Nah, I don't think I want to try to transmute here. We could also just play the Saga and activate. I think playing Saga here is a little bit better than playing a bounce land. We'll float all the mana, activate for Titan, and cast the Titan. See if our opponent has Path to Exile. I mean, they kind of have to, having 2 cards in hand that they've done nothing with. I don't know what else it would be. Do we care if we get Path? We could also get Tolaria West, Simic Growth Chamber, and just transmute immediately. That way we could possibly play Dryad this upcoming turn. We leave Growth Chamber in play. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. Plus 2 from a Growth Chamber would let us play Dryad first. And then we could play Titan and haste potentially with Valcut triggers. So, I don't know. I guess there's no real our opponent just scoops. Okay. They've had enough of us trying to figure out what to do here. I was going to say, though, there's probably no real reason to go for the haste and get blown out by Path to Exile, because our opponent almost certainly had it. So, probably just getting Tolaria West and Simic Growth Chamber and transmuting for the Summoner's Pact to save some mana would have been the best choice. Against an opponent playing enchantments, we obviously want Force Vigor and Foundation Breaker. The question is, do we want Karn? Do we want Karn? I mean, we could just side out the Karns and bring in Engineer Explosives instead, as Karn will most likely be minusing for Explosives anyways. Karn killing a land that's been enchanted a couple times with Liquid Meta Coating could be good, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that Karn is really the move here, so I think we can board it out in this matchup as it. We're not really trying to grind, we're just trying to kill them with Titan, and Explosives will give us an out to them having Solemnity and 9 lives. Otherwise, it'll let us just interact with their board, so that should be good. Ghost Quarter seems fine here. Probably not interested in Dismembers. We could bring in Golos. That doesn't seem terrible, but it's not as good as Titan, obviously. I think we're probably fine this way. We can trim the Cavern of Souls, as we're not trying to play around counter magic. We could trim a Grazer as well, I think. We don't want to be overloaded on that effect. Yeah, I think that's probably about where we want to be. Alright, we'll run it. That game was very strange. Alrighty, so we're on the draw, of course. And we have a hand with double Summoner's Pact. A couple lands, but no bounce lands, no Amulet, no Saga. No early plays. This is a pretty clear mulligan to me. And here we go. We have a Summoner's Pact for Titan. We have the bounce land plus the Amulet. We even get to play Amulet on 1. We do have to bottom a card here, and I'm not entirely certain what it should be. It probably should be Expedition Map, but I kind of like the idea that Map can set us up with an extra land drop here. Like, we could play turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 Azusa, land, pick up the Growth Chamber, play Map, crack it to get a second land. I guess that doesn't really do much. Oh, and then we could Grazer in the second land. That wouldn't be too bad. It would even set us up with a Tolaria West as well. But, I mean, I guess that requires us to keep Grazer, which I don't know that we want to be doing. It probably is just bottoming the map here, as much as I dislike it. We might just top deck a land anyways, so that is the hope, at least. Yep, there's a land. It's not really a great land, but, I mean, yeah, we'll lead out this Amulet and pass. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? We drew a land, so I'll be happy about it. That way we can play Azusa this upcoming turn, pick up the Growth Chamber, and play Sunhome, and not have missed a second land drop. That's the only reason why I wanted a land in the first place. My opponent plays Utopia Sprawl. Wonder what color they name. White. Not super surprised. I was a little concerned they would name red there, as that might be them preparing to cast a turn 3 Mages of the Moon. But they also must have just top decked this Utopia Sprawl, as they otherwise would have played on turn 1, so that's interesting. We are 1 Grazer or Primeval Titan away from just casting Titan this upcoming turn. We could even haste it with Vesuva and Boros Garrison. So, like, what we would do is we would play the bounce land, float 3, pick up the bounce land, play Azusa, play bounce land twice more for 4 mana, Grazer, bounce land into play, going down to 3, but then up to 5, and then we would pack for another Grazer. The question is whether we would have enough green mana. I'm not 100% sure. Don't have it, though, so that's fine. We'll just play Azusa and a couple lands and, be content. Of course, we're keeping bounce land on hand here, so we have all of our mana shenanigans under control. Playing the Sunhome before the Saga, as the Saga will have an enter the battlefield trigger. If we played Saga first and our opponent, I don't know, did something crazy like slaughter pacted Azusa or something, then we wouldn't be able to play the Sunhome after the Azusa dies if we played Saga first. So it gives them a window to respond, whereas playing the Sunhome doesn't. Always good to be in that mindset when you're playing cards like Azusa and Dryad. Unfortunately, we do need this Azusa to survive to cast Titan this upcoming turn, as we can't Growth Chamber Grazer out the Growth Chamber. That would put us with only 1 green mana floating, so Destiny Spinner. 2 mana, 2/3. Creatures and enchantments they control can't be countered. Not that we really care about that. And then 4 to animate a land into an XX creature, where X is the number of enchantments they control. Interesting. Banishing Light is kind of annoying. Explosives. Interesting. We'll let the Saga go. Playing Explosives on 2 might not be a bad choice here, as they are getting a lot of mana from this Sanctum Weaver. They currently control 4 enchantments, so this thing taps for 4 mana. We can't Explosives on 3. I think just Explosives on 2, blow it up and pass is probably a good line. Actually, we might be able to cast Titan if we do this. We get land. That's 5 mana. Actually, I think if we blow Explosives on 2 after playing it right here, then we actually can play and haste a Titan, so. Because, no, not on 2, because we're not killing the Banishing Light. What am I saying? We'll pick up the Growth Chamber. Play the Explosives. For some reason, I thought the Explosives on 2 would kill the Banishing Light. It does not, so. Forget what I was saying. Completely ignore me, as is sometimes the best choice. Right, we'll pass it back. Next turn, we have Titan with double Amulet out. Sadly, we have both the Sunhome and the Stronghold in play, though. So, that's a little awkward. They play land and pass. That's great for us. Let's do this in our main phase, of course. We'll float, sacrifice, get second Amulet. Their last card could be Path. That is something to be thinking about. We do have Yield set, so we need to hit 5 and get rid of those. We'll untap. And float, untap, float. I guess we can explore and Grazer here to try to enable ourselves to kill our opponent here. That wouldn't really be playing around Path now, would it? If we could play a second Titan here, though, we only need 3 extra mana floating when our Titan resolves. So this is going to be pretty easy. I don't even need to do the math for it, because we can just explore here. 3 mana floating, play the Growth Chamber, another explore. That's rather interesting. There's probably a way to just straight up kill our opponent here, even with the double Titan thing. Actually, I don't know if there is. Depends on how much mana we can produce. We'll pick up the Growth Chamber and explore again. We didn't need to top deck the explore, though. Grazer would have been good enough to do it. Growth Chamber. Interesting. I wonder if there's a way to put the Sunhome in, not instant speed with a Grazer, though, sadly. Yeah, I don't think there's a way we can double strike both Titans, but we can haste and attack with both, so. We'll pick up the Simic. See, 4 plus 5 is 9, so we play Titan down to 3, transmute T West after floating 6 mana, play Titan, yeah, okay, so we don't need to play the Grazer here. Right, so let's cast the first Pact. Get a Titan and play it, leaving our blue floating for Tolari West, although it doesn't really make a huge difference. We'll yield here. Get Talari West. If we get Selesnya, then we can maybe use a Valakut to haste off the Stronghold instead, but I don't know. I'm not going to think too much about it. I don't really care that much. Let's just put 2 Titans into play, and that'll probably be good enough. Pick up the T-West, transmute for another Pact. I guess we do need to be worried about whether we can pay for 2 Pacts after this whole sequence is over. Well, actually, if they don't have Path, then we have Lethal here. So, I don't know. We'll go ahead and haste here with the Garrison and Vesuva copying the Stronghold that's in play. This plays around at least 1 path. Although, it may not if we have to not die a double pact, but haste. We'll haste here. And of course, we'll pick up the Vesuva here. Alright, we'll go to combat and attack. Alright, yes. Here, we'll get Sanctuary and Gruul Turf, as that'll give us some green mana to pay for our packs, but it'll also let us double strike 1 Titan for lethal if they don't have Path, which they probably would have played by now if they had it. So we'll Sunhome this Titan, I suppose. We'll pick up the Sunhome and I guess... Well, we can activate the Slayer Stronghold on our other Titan, I suppose. I don't really see a reason not to. Or we'll activate it on the double strike one. How about that? And this one will search for a second green source, like a breeding pool, to play around paying for a Summoner's Pact. And Talari West, so that after all is said and done, even if our opponent is not dead, we can have a Titan ready to go. Like, let's say they pathed and untapped and pathed the other one or something like that, then we would still not be dead. Okay, opponent. This is lethal. What you got to say about it? Looks like our opponent has nothing to say about it. Well, I mean, that works, I guess. Over here trying to think about how to play around things and how to do all the things we need to do, but we actually just have lethal, so... It's very easy to overthink things like that in Amulet. So anyways, thank you guys for joining me for this particular match. I will see you guys in match 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, or if you just want to see that 500 subs video, then drop your subscribe even just for that. Maybe you hate me as a person. Anyways, I've been goofing off way too much. I'll see you guys in match 2. This is Redface Menace, signing off.